Hey Ransom Church, I'm Phil Wiseman. I'm the lead pastor of Table Church in Des Moines, Iowa. And after being on staff at the Ransom for about 10 years, the Ransom launched us out in 2019, and our church started in October of 2019. And I just want to give you a little update on some of the things that God has been doing in that time. Obviously, planting a church in the midst of a global pandemic and social unrest has been one of the most challenging things I've ever done. I'd probably say this has been the hardest year of ministry that I've ever had. But it's also been perhaps the most transformative and the most rewarding. And there's not enough time in this video to give you examples of all the things that God has done in that time. And I could talk about new families that have come into the church, new people that have come to know Christ, people that have been baptized. Those things have happened and it's been amazing. But I just want to share with you one thing that's quite fresh and that's happening right now in our midst that's really, really neat, because I think God's hand is all over it. When the pandemic began, just like most schools in the country, the public schools here in Des Moines went virtual. And so there were students that were learning online, many of them for the first time. In fact, thousands of kids in this community don't even have internet access. And so it became clear that a lot of kids were going to fall behind academically as a result of this. And so we looked at each other and said, well, what can we do? And so one of the things that we've done is we've started an academic support program. In fact, we call this Rise Up, and it's a tutoring program for at-risk youth in our community. And we didn't realize what a need we were hitting on, but this program quickly grew to 6 kids who are coming regularly. And as we've continued to do this, and schools have caught wind of it just in the last few days, a local school here sent us 8 families to contact for tutoring. And so we believe that this is going to continue to grow. In fact, it's going to grow beyond just what our tiny office can handle. Now, God has been faithful to us in so many ways. In fact, in December, we kind of made the gutsy decision as a church, we're going to give away all of our offerings for the month of December. And so for all of Advent, we gave away all the offerings. That's 4 weeks plus Christmas Eve to local and international organizations. And we just felt like that was something we needed to do in order to kind of model a gutsy generosity at Christmas. But you can't outgive God, because in the middle of all of that, right in the middle of December, we stumbled across a building that was for sale, and we inquired into it. We looked at it. We really liked it, but of course it's expensive. But through the generosity of some organizations, we've been given the opportunity, if we can raise $100,000, they will match the money twice, and we will have $300,000 in order to pay cash for this building that'll be perfect not only for church offices, but for our Rise Up tutoring program, as well as any other ministries in the community that we might be led to do. And so we believe that God's going to bring that money and that we're going to be able to pay cash for this building. And it's just been amazing to see what God has done. Most of the kids that come to Rise Up are children of immigrants or refugees. In fact, all of them but one right now speak Swahili. And it just so happens that our local outreach director is fluent in Swahili. And that's not something we ever planned on, but it's just the way that God works sometimes. And so it's been an incredible way just to have an impact on families. This building that we're hoping to purchase is right across the street from the school that these children go to. It's the most diverse school in Des Moines, right in the heart of a neighborhood where many of the people that we're trying to reach live. And so we couldn't be more excited for the ways that God is moving and what He's doing in our midst. And I just want to say this as I wrap up. None of it could have happened without you, Ransom. None of it could have happened if it wasn't for your gutsy vision of multiplication. And I get it, multiplication is exhausting sometimes. Hearing about multiplication is exhausting sometimes, let alone actually doing it. And so, yes, it's exhausting, but when you find your rest in God, it can be very exhilarating. And so I hope that that's what many of you can discover. What's your part in multiplication? Are you called to give, or are you called to go? We can all have a part in kingdom expansion, and that's what we're called to do. So Ransom Church, let me just encourage you. Don't quit. Don't grow weary of doing good. The things that God has called you to do are making an impact regionally, nationally, and globally. The fingerprints of Ransom Church are all over the place, including here in Des Moines. So thank you very much, and God bless.